So the shading demos so far have showed you a lot about using soft brushes and mixer brushes and clipping masks. So if you remember, I used the mixing brush on this ear. And then here I used a series of clipping masks and mostly like soft brushwork to lend the character this sense of dimension and texture. But for some of you, you might end up wanting to do block shading, which is a little more illustrative, a little more like you would see the shadows in, say, like a comic book style illustration or actual comic book. So it's a bit more shape oriented, that you use a hard brush instead of a soft brush. So I'm going to put a layer above my tail. And so my tail is my fill layer. And I'm going to create a clipping mask. So same steps. And now I'm going to come up to my brushes and I'm going to use the hard round brush or the hard round pressure size. Either one will work, just depending on like the control you want, how you want it to look. I'm going to turn my smoothing a little bit up because for this I'm drawing kind of like lines and shapes that will become the shading. And I'm going to turn the opacity all the way up. So make sure you check your brush settings. And now I know that this bowl is going to cast a shadow on this tail. I'm going to come here, grab that color, and I'm going to come down darker. I'm going to do pretty dark because I'm going to fade it later. Adjust my brush, and I'm going to just, what is that shape going to be? And the thing about, check your smoothing, block shape shading like this is you think about like where are the shadows, how wide should they be, where will they kind of get thinner. Okay, so that's going to be a shadow there, but then I'm also thinking to be consistent, I need to darken this. And so you're really thinking like, where is your light source coming from and which side of the character, which side of the object, whatever you're shading in, will be darker and which side will be lighter. So here I have my shapes. I'm like, do I like these shapes? Is it enough? Should it be more? And obviously this is really high contrast, right? So I want to fade it down a little bit. So I'm going to come over to my layer opacity. I'm just going to turn that down. And then I want to think about, should the shading change? So I'm looking at it and I'm wondering like, where would this catch highlight? Where would it be more in shadow? I'm going to turn this back up. And I think I need to just adjust here because I think this would cast shadow there. And I want to kind of just follow this and bring some of my line work down because that's you thinking about your style. You may not have like a lot of line work and you wouldn't need to kind of blend your shading into your line work. But here I want to just emphasize the curve of those tails by just putting in a few lines. Let's see how this looks. I'm going to blend that in. It's probably too much and bring it down. And the thing about block shading is you can do multiple clipping masks, and now I can come in and kind of build up this darker area here so I can build up the degree to which it goes from light to dark if I want to. And I could come over here and I could build in some highlight right in here, right, because it would catch some light. And I could do this on the same layer or I can make it a highlight layer. I suggest making a highlight layer. I feel like this will become difficult to control later, but let's turn it down. And now we can see we're getting that kind of layers of light and dark to create the appearance of dimension. And it also adds in a more distinct style to your work that's a little more harder edged. Let's compare the difference. We'll just scroll up. Much softer, much harder. So you just want to think about what style do you want? What direction do you want to take your work in as you apply shading to lend your character not only dimension, but also detail and a specific look?